think that's what I did last time. I pulled the card and the battery, put the new battery in, put the card back in, and then I continued recording. But just doing the battery, no, didn't work.
It didn't work, it wouldn't record.
Nope. It did not. It did not.
And it didn't erase the
What was in there was there. It stayed, yeah. But I couldn't add to it. Makes no sense to me, and I'd
Yeah. That stuff doesn't.
be on my pay grade.
Yeah. All you do is keep yourself ahead of trying to figure it out.
You got it. I'm not even getting my emails on my smartphone now that I used to get that go into my laptop. I don't know what's going on there yet. All I know is it's pissing me off.
About 10 years ago, I was not trying to get my emails, my notes. I've never gotten them.
Really?
It never worked. Nobody could figure out why. And then I realized, oh, actually, it's a funny thing. And now I don't need it. Or at the time, it was like,
Yeah.
oh no, maybe it's best I don't get the thing. Spend more time on your
You
phone.
can go hobble into Best Buy technical people and say, do you have any idea how this is supposed to work? And they'll probably have it working in about a few minutes.
Pass them around. Smaller type.
Keep one.
Did you see all the glasses in the crowd?
Yeah.
It's just maintenance. 317 would be, and then everything below that would be an additional 150.
So 467, not including trees. And the other, not including the 150 or
So the
170.
memory was good. 317 is what I see for a total.
This is a grand total of 467, 625,
And that includes,
just for roads.
yep, so that includes, I believe, the 70 grand for Thayer Road, which, again, grant eligibility or not, one way or the other. We can't do work on it and then get reimbursed after the fact, so it's kind of
That's correct.
on the pot, off the pot.
Well, we're not going to start all of these at the same time anyway. So the ones that we've applied for grants, we could push out
Oh,
the
that's fine.
priority line. And once we find out.
I print
get
this off at
grants,
home. I don't use
we
theirs.
could either
It's
come
the
off
same.
list or
So
stay on.
Thayer Road's the only one on this list
Okay.
that we applied for grant funding for. All the rest of it was prioritized maintenance. So the 1 through 4, Tamarack, Carlin, and Zion, were the 4 recommended roads from the Highway Committee to do in 2024.
Which,
The additional below that to get us somewhat close to 250, which was the conversation from, I think, 2 meetings ago, gets us to that 237 number. There was also discussion about 500,000, which is where we added in these additional, the unnumbered ones below Thayer Road.
well, not necessarily, because the Blue Spring Lake ones have been on there for,
Six
well,
years.
certain ones of there have been on, since we found out early in the year about the county doing that. So what this says, for the roads we wanted to take care of in 2024, we need $467,625. The $175,000 on the first discussion, we put that together, we need $642,000.
And that does not include pulverizing, repaving Tamarack Road from the village to, I'll just say Paulson's house, does it?
Isn't that up here?
No. These roads are just chip seal, seal coat, crack fill roads. It's not resurfacing.
So if Tamarack what you just said about Tamarack,
which is gonna be done in the grant.
why isn't it on the list?
Because this is a 2024, like,
Were you talking about that Tamarack section being done in 24 or 25?
And that's what's part of the grant, correct?
correct.
So that's 220,000, 30,000 of it.
Okay, but then it's not till 2025 anyway, so we're just muddying the waters here, right? Because the grant won't be available till, it'll be 2025 before we can even start it. Right?
Correct.
So let's leave that off the discussion, because that's, we're looking at trying to decide this. Because any money we're borrowing is for use in 2024. Correct?
Most of it, I think, right, Josh? All of it?
I would say, if we borrow, yeah, would be this year.
I mean, and any, if at the electors meeting we decide to go for a tax levy, that's got nothing to do with 2024. We have to get through 2024.
Correct.
So this 175 we need to borrow to get through organization, or operations wise, we need for 2024 business. And the roads that we, at the electors meeting, and we showed the rationale for the levy increase, and if we didn't get the levy increase, we'd have to borrow. These are the roads that we showed as examples.
Correct.
And if we don't take care of these roads in 2024, they just continue to deteriorate. Those charts we showed where, you know, the road ratings, you know, how bad they are, we'd have to improve them. If we don't do it again this year, they just continue to get worse. We have to fix our roads. I'm not saying you guys disagree with it, I'm not. I'm just saying that we have to fix these roads, and this says we need $650,000 to be able to do that and cover expenses
For 2024.
for 2024. And if my math is wrong, please let me know.
We need the 150 to 175 for maintenance. And one reason I decided to break that out is, very simply put, when it comes to November, when people are on us about having to borrow this money, we can show the public that we had to borrow this with this overage 500, 1,000% or whatever, just to get through this year with maintenance, 150, 175,000. So you can see it in black and white. The rest is for capital road expenditure, but it makes sense to do that so people understand.
Wow.
That's why I had it broke out. The bank, I assured me we would not be penalized by doing two separate loans that way.
I don't agree that we have to do two separate loans. I mean, we can operationally show where this money is, and my concern is if we borrow this money for operations and suddenly we need it elsewhere, or vice versa, are we obligated to use it there, as opposed to one loan, explaining where it's all going, we can itemize it and show exactly where it's going by budget and everything else, but one loan, to me, makes more sense in case there are areas where we have to move it around, because I don't know if having two separate loans targeted specifically for something means that's the only place it can be used.
The only consolation to that, I did check with the bank, they would do this like a construction loan, where if we take the 150 out, put it in the checking account for these maintenance expenses, we're gonna start paying interest on that. However, we still have to have that figure to pay it off in 4 years, one annual payment. We still have to do that. So we would not, you know, so we can take the 150, get it in the checking account for, you know, our expenses. And then in November, when we need money to pay off the county or whatever for paving, we can get that.
Now, if your rationale is 175,000 for operations, we're gonna take it out as a note, as a debt service, and that one will be paid off in a year, and the other one will be paid off in 4 years. That makes sense to me. But that's not what I had heard before.
Okay, that, I would, what you just said there, I will tell you, I've had some conversation with the town of Jefferson, chairman, and that's what they did last year. They borrowed $250,000 in August, 1-year note, paid it off in August 2024. Okay, borrowed $250,000. The title was road maintenance. Paid it off. Well, it's supposed to be paid off next month. I
So-
saw the resolution. It's right on their website.
So are you now saying, because we haven't talked about it and we haven't voted on it, are you now saying you are recommending 2 different loans because they're gonna have different repayment schedules?
I think that the 100, if we borrow 150 or 175 for the road maintenance, that it should be a one-shot payoff. Okay, because that was the expenses for '24, the
1 year.
operating
A
expenses.
1-year payoff,
A 1-year payoff,
not one shot, 1 year.
one-year payoff. The other one, the rest of it could be the 4-year for the capital expenditures.
That makes more sense than what was said earlier about just so we can allocate. The payoff absolutely makes sense if that's
Question,
what you guys are talking about.
can't you borrow the entire amount as a 4-year note, but then you take it as you need it and pay it back early? Wouldn't that make, it's a simpler approach?
I would think so. I don't know.
But what about the interest rate? Is it going to be different 1 year and 4 years? Can you get it locked in?
Yes, to that question, we'll be locked in.
The interest rate wasn't different between the paybacks.
Or is it not?
Right.
I mean, it probably, on my guess, it's going to keep going up. So maybe you should go a 4-year. Oh,
But and you can renew your access to those funds as you pay it back.
Opinions there, gentlemen? Josh?
Got a lot of opinions if you want. I think taking out a 1-year operational note makes sense. Because this was a one-time, there was no way, well, I shouldn't say that. There is a very unlikely chance that we have $100,000 worth of tree work next year. I said very unlikely, I didn't say impossible. So, to me, 150 on a 1-year payback makes sense. I will say right now, I think it is foolish for us to try to do $400,000 worth of road work as of July. I think it's foolish. That's my own opinion.
July of what year?
This year, to try to get $400,000 worth of seal coat work done between now and the end of the year, I think is foolish. Twofold. One, we set a goal. I set a goal. I'll say me. Of doing $250,000 worth of road work. Okay. Year 1, the way that we had organized it with the highway committee, year 1 was going to be just seal coat work. Year 2 was grant dependent. It was going to be Tamarack and Island Road. We didn't get the Island Road grant, but that was going to be paving. So year 2 wasn't going to have any seal work on it whatsoever. Year 3 was a combination. Year 4 went back to maintenance. Year 5, and then there was a big pile of beyond year 5 that we didn't have funding for. So to me, I stand behind the opinions of the highway committee that we try to get the 2 sections of Tamarack, Carlin, and Zion done this year, understanding at the same point we had an extraordinary amount of tree work to do, and pave Blue Spring Lake Drive. And that's my own opinion, and that is going to be how I vote regardless, is that
And what does that come up to?
it's $100,000 worth of sealing work. It's another $78,000 for Blue Spring Lake Drive, so that puts us at 100. Let's just call it $180,000 for this year.
So we're basically,
Out of 250, which was kind of the goal to start with. Yes, we're 70,
Prairie Road though.
we're 70 short. We still have to do something with shoulders on Little Prairie Road. We've got some patchwork we've got to do on Dowland Lane after not 2 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, with the reclaimed and rolling that they did last year. So call that 5-ish maybe. You know, we're gonna be pushing $200,000 worth of road work. I don't think we need to try to,
Are you saying that from a cost perspective
Yes.
or from a timing perspective?
two things, timing and cost.
I don't-
I 100% agree that we've got $400,000 worth of road work to do in this town for the next 6 years. There's no doubt in my mind that
And the-
is what it
and by
is,
the
but-
charts and graphs we showed, the longer you delay it, the more
Yeah.
costly that is. So it's not 400,000 next year, it's probably 500,000 next year if we don't jump on it this year. And if we'd approved this loan 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when we first started talking about it, we would have the time to do it. I agree, it's probably tough now time-wise to get it all in, but we kicked the can down the road for 2 or 3 months now on this issue, and we haven't come away with it. And I think we're doing the town a disservice if we don't try to stay ahead of the curve on our roads. Because the tax levy, to take 400,000, 200,000, what you're saying, to take the other 250,000 that we need to do to push it to 2025, that extra 250 is gonna become 3 or 350, or whatever it is. And then, how are we gonna justify paying for it next year? Either more borrowing, a tax levy increase higher than what we need if we took care of it this year. That's what I see.
Question, if you were to take the higher amount, what, 400,000, whatever it is, 300,000, if you take that amount, handle it as a construction loan, or you draw it as you use it or need it, and you don't need it, it doesn't cost you that much. It's just laying there, but it's an insurance policy if you do need it. And if you don't need it this year, is that construction loan, or whatever you want to call it, will it carry over beyond 2024? If it carries over into 2025, now you have a head start on what you're going to do next year.
Okay, my only question to respond to you, does that make sense? My only question, because you're the one talking to the banks, in a construction type, and I don't remember, are we paying interest only? So let's say it's, just pick a round figure, 500,000 we borrow, we only draw 150 to start. Are they setting that money aside for us, and we're paying interest only on the unused portion? Or are we paying no interest until we actually pull the next round?
We're only paying interest on what we draw.
Yes.
Great.
That's perfect, I would like us to
Put that in motion, and we confirm it, et cetera.
And I have one more question regarding that. If you were to do this 400, 500,000, whatever it is, if you were to do that, is any of that money you're going to have to spend now out of your cash flow, any of that, or your loan, any of that money, is any of that going to get reimbursed in 2025 from a grant?
We won't know until we hear back on the grants, and the grants have been.
So we don't know. So we don't have a choice on that. We got to spend it and maybe we'll get it back.
the answer essentially is no.
You probably,
Any road work we do is not grant eligible.
okay, all right.
So if we, let's say Island Road, we reapply for Island through ARIP, and we get awarded that, it would be just like what's on the agenda tonight, where we applied for LRIP funding, we got it. 6 months later, we get the SMA from DOT, and we say, yes, we're officially in. You're gonna give us 33, we're gonna cover the rest. It would be the same thing for Island Road, regardless of however that all pans out. We would get an SMA, we would borrow, we would essentially have to borrow money for a grant project, but
But there's nothing on this list that grants have been applied for
correct. So,
at this point.
But it could be.
no. This
No,
is
you
all-
can't.
This is, everything we're staring at on that microfont list.
Those are
is
just expenses.
maintenance, like what we did on Hooper Road last year.
Maintenance, expenses, whatever. It's money you got to spend. You probably aren't going to get it back from a grant.
Well, regardless, the roads need to be fixed,
Right.
and you need the money to do it if the time allows. Have the money there, get it done. It's only gonna get worse.
Yep.
You know, okay, I mean,
I just want to make sure we
I
understand what,
understand time to
Yeah.
get this stuff done. But until we get bids back, which looks like it's gonna be another 30, 45 days. We don't know how long, what their commitments are on doing it. And if we have to bid it, award it to more than one contractor, and we can be working on it concurrently.
Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Any objection on taking care of item number one and then moving to the second one? What I'm talking about is the maintenance amount with a 1-year payoff. So we have one resolution. Any objections to be working on that?
How are you going to pay it off within 1 year when we need that to cover shortfalls? What's your plan to pay it off within? I'm not against it, I'm just asking, we should understand how we're gonna be paying it off.
It would be incorporated into the mill rate in November when we implement it, and it would be paid back as long as the payback date is January 1st, 25 or later.
Okay, so we want the pay date to go up. January 1st or later.
Well, I mean, realistically, it should be made for March 1st or later.
Right.
Because we don't get our tax supplement
Right, I'm
until,
still, I was thinking that. So really, it's already July, so we could basically do an August thing, correct?
Do in August what?
Payback, the
Due date.
due date for the note,
Of 25.
correct?
But I didn't hear the answer that Rob asked, where are we getting this money to pay back?
Taxes,
Through the tax.
right.
Well, the debt service will increase the mill rate.
2025.
Tax levy increase will.
2025 taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna address number one. Unless there's any other discussion.
Well, I don't really want to move forward with one until we know how, I'm okay talking about them separately, but I would like us to understand number two before we start voting. Otherwise, we approve one, and all of a sudden, we're not in agreement on number two, and it gets all out of whack.
So what are you thinking on an amount, Josh, for number two?
you want my
He's
opinion?
already said 200,000.
200? You got
Yeah.
80, you got 80, 10 for Little Prairie Road, now throw 10 more out there for something down the lane or whatever. So you got 180.
Between sealing Tamarack, 2 sections of Tamarack, Carlin, and Zion, and paving Blue Spring Lake Drive when the county comes through. Plus shouldering Little Prairie, touching Ballon Lane, we would probably be close at $200,000.
And if we are gonna separate them, that leaves 467,000 to take care of this list, because I don't wanna keep punting our road repairs down into next year, because we're gonna end up in the same situation next year, because we don't know how a tax levy increase will be voted on. And if it's not approved again, then we're end up backfiring more money.
It's not 460 more than the 200.
No, his total is about 2. My total is still maintaining everything on this list that we said we take care of. It's 467. Not counting number 1. Since nothing on here is grant eligible anyway.
There's no way we can get that done this year, right?
I'm not saying never,
But to certain individuals' comments here, if it's done like a construction loan and we don't need to pull it, we don't pull it.
And if the weather cooperates, you may get more done than you think you're going to.
But you have flexibility that you
Yeah,
don't have
correct.
otherwise.
And please, nobody, I'm not saying Josh is wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. Josh has his way of looking at it, I have mine, so.
None of us know it's really gonna happen. There's no way to know.
If I did, I'd pick the right numbers, I won't be here next week.
You're not gonna get
Well, I
that.
paid for
You don't get a date on the first drink either.
Somebody's gotta say something,
Well, you've heard our opinions,
We're just throwing it against the
A little
wall.
different, just to let you know.
that's why you're the chairman and you get that big set.
Well, that might be reaching a little
I'm
far.
gonna make.
That's for Rob to
It
do.
should be two separate,
No, don't agree.
okay,
You don't have to agree.
I
He's
know.
not saying you're wrong.
I'm giving an opinion.
to be honest with you, Flint,
It's just an opinion, having done an awful lot of construction loans.
Well, I guess, Frank, my question is to that regard. If we're doing a construction type of loan, where we don't have to take it, we don't use it, why would we sell it?
we still have to pay it off then in four separate increments. That's gonna be the same no matter what. We may pay less interest because we didn't borrow it all, but we still, the bank told me, we still have, you know, if that figure, let's say it's 600 grand, and it's $170, $170,000 a year. Even though there's 200,000 still sitting at the bank, we still have to pay the 170.
Right.
That makes sense.
So if it's all taken together, we're doing basically the same thing. The first installment basically would pay off the, if we separate it, pay off the first.
Even if the loan is for 600,000, you're gonna have to pay the whole 600 in a certain time frame? No, it's when you take it out, and when you draw it.
Well, the interest, the payment, there's.
The interest.
The interest, yeah, will be charged less interest in the end, but that payment amount, that number will remain the same for 4 years.
And keep in mind, if we separate them, we're not gonna make two payments every year. But the first year, we have to make the payment on the one, and then a payment on the second.
Second,
Versus if it's combined, you're just making one payment. And if something happens and something unbeknownst happens, like this year, you're not necessarily locked in. That's not the right phrase. Committed one way or the other.
If you agree on what you need to do this now, and make a motion to then sit down with the banker, you guys could have a special meeting just with the banker and say, hey, what's the best deal we can do here? And what are we locked into? Right now, you don't know. You think you do, but you don't. And you don't know the rate for sure either.
copious notes now.
That's only a suggestion.
See, I like the idea of getting rid of the 150,000 in 1 year.
You can do that. You can pay it off the next day. You don't have to wait to pay it off. You can do it immediately, if you have the money, but you don't.
Make the motion, let's go.
Okay, okay, I love you to death, Josh. I'm gonna make a motion that we borrow a total of $600,000, $150,000 designated for maintenance, to put that 150 back in our account. We're down 450 for capital construction on the roads, with a 4-year payoff, providing it can be done like a construction loan. We're only charged interest on what we use. I think that covers.
And there's no penalties if we close the loan without drawing.
Prepayment.
And with that, write that down.
No prepayment penalty. Well, it's not really prepayment, it's, we're not drawing it all, we're closing it without, just so there's no, I think we're safe.
Well, they used to call it prepayment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Because It's not good.
I may.
That's a name.
Throw it in, Rob.
New business.
Just rub it in.
Here's some good news. New business, report on potential traffic study to review traffic on Mill Road and Carlin Trail. So I went over, and I told you I was over to town of Troy last time, and stumbled into that they did their own. Well, just so happens tomorrow morning at 7:30, those fine guys, DPW guys from town of Troy are gonna be here at 7:30, and we're gonna meet at the town hall, and they're gonna go set up the apparatus on Carlin Trail. A week later, they're gonna come back and move it to Mill Road. And, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about it, but they got this from the town of Lafayette. They purchased this thing for, it cost $750, but they're using it for other studies, trucks, etc. However it works, the system can tell if a semi runs over. Josh probably knows what I'm talking about. You can enter all this stuff into Whistler. Their roads over there have been updated for 27 years. So, after we get this from them, this, the two roads they do it for us, we might want to look into getting something like that. So, there's all kinds of uses for it, all kinds of data. It provides all kinds of data, and it doesn't cost thousands. And what did you say, if we had some engineering firm to do this, it was $9 grand or something?
That was cool, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a good thing, and I just gotta buy breakfast in my morning, so.
Eggs or beer?
When and where?
Maybe when they pick me up, at
When and where's the breakfast?
the edge of town.
Well, I can't anyway, because then it's.
No, you can
Yeah, you can. So that's a good thing. Now, number 2, approval of local road improvement program state municipal project agreement with regard to resurfacing of Tamarack Road from 8th Street to Young Road? It's not all the way to Young Road.
It's towards Young Road, not to Young Road. So it's the first 4,300 linear feet outside the village going south. I would make a motion to authorize the town chairman and town clerk treasurer to execute the SMA for Tamarack Road.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Well, I'm thinking of something. Michelle, I want you to put on the next agenda, discussion on that, posting, when somebody's gonna do something on their property, zoning notice. I liked what you sent me there, and so I talked to her about it. I think I sent it to him too, but we never put it on the agenda, so. Let's take number 4 instead of number 3 first here. Resolution authorizing the application for a cost-shared grant from the DNR to fund urban forestry catastrophic storm projects. All yours, Josh.
So Friday, I was perusing all sorts of fun things. Ended up coming across an opportunity that we have. DNR put out a notice on June 3rd that they have a catastrophic urban forestry grant. It may match, I shouldn't say match, well it is, it's 50-50, but the grant ranges between $4,000 and $50,000. What I don't know is whether or not we're actually going to qualify. The applications are being accepted until August 27th. Part of the application process is that the local government unit provides a resolution appointing someone as their designee, so to speak, for correspondence and that type of thing. Eligible costs are limited to tree damage, removal, and replacement within urban areas covered by the state of emergency, quote unquote. And what I don't know is if we are or are not covered at any point in time during all of this year's goings on with any state of officially declared state of emergency. So, given the timeline of the application being a week or so after our next meeting, I thought we could get it on the agenda. There was a boilerplate resolution, resolution that I found, put together, forwarded to Michelle. And realistically, the nuts and bolts of it is that the applicant will budget a sum sufficient to fully and satisfactorily complete said project, and hereby authorizes and empowers fill in the blank to act on the town's behalf. So the draft resolution I had included has the town clerk treasurer, as she's here pretty much 5 days a week. Obviously, not all the time do we look at our emails. So we would be able to apply for the grant, see if we get any funding, see if previously funded issues like this year, for instance, would be covered retroactively. I don't know, but all it's going to cost us at this point is a vote of support for the resolution. So I would make a motion that the town designate the town clerk treasurer to act on its behalf for filing grant applications through the DNR Catastrophic Urban Forestry Grant Program.
I'll second it. Any further discussion?
I have all for it, but I have a question. Urban forest, urban generally means cities, rural, so do we even qualify, or is their definition of urban forestry different?
It is.
Okay. That's what I was hoping. What is the definition? So we would, say, we would qualify.
Yeah. Whether or not we've got a qualifying event is the question. So,
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Chapter 3, discussion regarding town and/or resident responsibility for maintenance of trees adjacent to the roadway and responsibility for the payment of expenses related to overgrown, unstable, or fallen branches / trees. Yeah, why we're talking about this too. I got the village ordinance. We gotta have a couple lawyers figure out that ordinance. It's so long, and you know their ordinance, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you probably would, wouldn't you? But really,
I
it's,
wrote it.
well, then you talked about it for that sake. Get to the nuts and bolts of who's responsible, how their ordinance reads as far as trees going down the road, what they do, and so on and so forth.
So as long as they haven't changed it in the last 8 years, there was a large issue with emerald ash borer. A fair amount of the trees that are dead and tipping over in the town are ash trees, or were ash trees. What we did at the time, and this is a little bit different, the village has platted rights of way, meaning no one owns, the community owns the road slot, right? 66 feet wide, there's 24 foot of pavement in between them. So we got to a point we were having issues with maple trees, obviously, as well as ash trees. And at the time, I had a $3,000 tree budget, and we had 3 employees, and we were over our tree budget like 3 years in a row. So there was a lot of pomp and circumstance. Anyways, what ended up happening is they made the abutting homeowner responsible for trees that overhung the right-of-way. different. Again, 60, anywhere between 40 and 66 feet wide. If you had a tree outside of that that was growing over and it wasn't 14 foot off the ground, we could send them a notice that says, hey, your tree is in violation of ordinance XYZ. You've got 90 days to take care of it, 60 days, whatever. And if they didn't, we would bill them for it. Different in the town because 98% of our roads are, I'm gonna say, easemented. Show me where the easement is, sure, no, not really, but they've been there forever and the legal descriptions of the parcel has never changed, where you would own, you and your neighbor across the street own up to the center line, and it's technically still your property. The town just has the authority to have a road and do road maintenance in that corridor kind of thing. So it's not exactly apples for apples, but that was the nuts and bolts behind it.
A lot of this out at the lake is just gonna grow out again. Is the canopy. I mean, it's just, the trees from properties are leaning across the road like this. Several aren't now because we tapered it out. But, and then they're giving way with the soft ground, is like what happened that huge one on a Saturday. We've gotta do something. I mean, if we see something that's starting to be a hazard,
So do
we gotta come up with some plan where they're at. If we have to designate somebody to be what? Forester or something like that. And he's out there marking his tree, it looks like this could be a hazard, and then he lets the clerk know it's at W111 South Shore Drive, and she sends a letter out, something like that, right? But you got 60 days to remove it, or we gotta come up with some type of
So how will we designate or lay out which trees are their responsibility and which ones are ours? It seems like it's pretty cut and dry in the village. A little more ambiguous out there, a little more ambiguity out there, but we have to define that. So how, you're more knowledgeable in that than any of us, how would you suggest we do that?
Quite honestly, I would say hire a tree company. And like an actual, no offense to Ron's guys, they're not workers. But
hire a tree company to do what?
to be your forester.
Yeah, no, what I'm talking about is,
Like,
how do we determine which trees, how far from the road where it's the homeowner's responsibility versus ours?
It's 100% gonna depend on the road. There's a possibility that, let's say you and I live across the street from each other, that, you know, everybody says measure 33 feet from the center line of the road. Well, I guarantee you that road's not dead center in the middle of the road, period. So you may have branches going 22 feet, but my property actually goes to the eastbound lane type of thing, not just the center line. So it's, my own opinion, the easiest way to do it is that, I'll say we, the town, takes care of the road right away. And unfortunately, yeah, there's a cost that goes with that. Obviously, in years like this, there's an extreme cost that goes with it, but taking care of rights of way,
So you're saying don't change anything, just leave it?
I think it's gonna be a hornet's nest, to be honest with you, trying to,
Or
you
more.
know, I mean, there's lots of differences too, even around the lake, like, your yard's mowed right up to the pavement, and you go around South Shore Drive, and it's,
Hills and cliffs.
And it's brush right up to the edge of the road, you know, so everybody's got their own personal opinion on what their yard should look like, and if you tell them they can't have that tree or whatever, it's just gonna be not
I agree with you on that.
not productive. But from the standpoint of what are we gonna do, the highway, I don't even know when it was now at this point, I think it was last fall. we talked about, no, it was early this spring. We had a solicitation, let's say, to trim Mill Road.
Yeah,
Trim it back, like cut it back. And it was 10 feet off each side of the road and 14 foot high. You know, if that is our marching mantra, then people may become more assimilated to the fact that if I don't, they will, type of thing. Brush mower, I know there's people that get super PO'd when a brush mower goes past because they're pretty indiscriminate as far as what a brush mower will do versus a roadside lawnmower. And it's not the same, it's not the same thing. So, you know, from the standpoint of maintaining roads, getting sunlight on them, letting them dry out, keeping the trees away from right at the edge of the road, to me, that's more of an operational thing that we say, this is what we're gonna do. You know, it's gonna be essentially 40 feet wide and 14 foot tall.